There's priorities, there's goals, there's clarity, there's motivation, there's discipline, there's tools and automation. All of these things contribute to productivity. It's a lot, right? It's a lot. But what's the secret? Okay, what's the secret? So I'm going to tell you now what I call my enlightenment story. And I started my business back in 2010 with big dreams and pretty soon realized that it was going to be way harder than I thought, especially doing it part-time, very part-time. I did what I always do when I'm trying to learn something new is I learn skills and I try to find people who can teach me to cut down my learning curve to compress time. So I hired a lot of coaches early on, even before I had any real results. I was hiring coaches because I wanted to compress that time. And as I got a little bit more successful, a little bit more successful, but still not where I wanted to be, I was able to hire better and better coaches. And at one point, I had hired some of the best coaches in the industry, which was quite expensive. But I wanted to do it because I thought that would be my best chance of getting to where I wanted to go faster. So I started asking my coaches, what's the secret? I've learned all this stuff. I'm pretty knowledgeable now. I'm not afraid to implement. I'm not afraid to make mistakes. So why aren't I further along? What's the secret? What am I missing? And I never really got a clear answer. It was always, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this, could be that. Until one time, one coach, I asked him the same question, what's the secret? And he just smiled. And I said, why are you laughing? And he said, because it's right, literally right under your nose. I'm like, what? He goes, the secret to success in your business is consistency. And I had a little bit of a letdown. I was like, I didn't know about consistency. I know all about consistency, right? That can't be the secret. He goes, it is. What I'm going to show you tonight is that if you want to increase your productivity, if you want 100x your productivity, it's a matter of getting consistent, but probably more importantly, staying consistent. Those are the two biggest things that will drive your business more than anything else. And Darren Hardy, a big mindset guy in our space, right, he said the consistency is the key to achieving and maintaining momentum. So why is that important? Why is momentum important? It's important because of this. If you look at productivity, right, it's preceded by consistency. The more consistent you are, the more productive you're going to get. And the more productive you get, all of a sudden you're going to start building some momentum. And momentum is really the key here. Productivity is not the key. If you want to be consistent, you want to be productive. But momentum is the key. Because momentum is where things start to kick in and happening almost on autopilot because of the things you did before. Things start building. I know in my business, I can tell when I'm really on the right track when things start happening, even though I didn't do them. For example, I'm putting out content, I'm teaching, I'm creating courses, I'm doing all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I get a couple of calls from people who want me to talk to their teams or their people. Right. And I'm like, wow, that's because of what I did before. That's momentum. And that momentum will keep building and building. And as your momentum builds, your results also build. So those results you're looking for come all the way back to consistency. Right? They come all the way back to consistency, but they're driven by momentum. So I went to Facebook about a week ago and I posted this. I asked other people, why do you think consistency is hard? And interestingly, I got a lot of answers. And I got a lot of answers from some pretty big marketers out there. So I was happy with that because I'm always curious, the people who've been around for a while and know the game, what do they think? So why do they think consistency is so hard? And here's some of the answers. Lisa Torres, some of you guys know Lisa Torres, a big marketer in our space. She said that consistency is hard because it needs regular effort and focus, which can be thrown off by changing motivation, unclear goals, distractions, and tasks that feel too big and don't show quick results. So basically, effort, focus, distractions, unclear goals, time management, all that stuff. And also, she said, if you don't manage your time, that's even tougher. So Lisa hit the whole gamut there. I agree with all of it. I'm not sure everybody has the same issues or all the issues, but certainly some of them. Mark Harbert, a lot of you guys know Mark, right? Lack of vision was his big thing. If you don't know where you're going, there's no motivation to get anywhere fast and to maintain consistent action. Right on. Lack of vision. What else? Gavin Mountford, right? Another guy who's been in our space for a long time. Information overload and overwhelm are the two biggest factors that he feels makes it hard to be consistent. Vanessa Duplessis, one of my very first coaches, right? She said priorities and life happening, life getting in the way. Yeah, I totally get that. I think that's all true. Ron Henley, guy who's been around, knew Jim Rohn, knew all those guys back in the day, super good marketer. Ron said it's biology for him. It's his brain, right? ADHD, he's got ADHD, and it makes it very hard for him to stay consistent. Cool. Same with Jamie Gaiman, right? Jamie Gaiman said it's built into our nervous system. So now these two guys are talking about basic biology and the brain. So that can be a contributing factor. Jordan Maley, a lack of belief. She believes a lack of belief that the action will produce the desired result. 100% agree with her. Pat Campbell, a good friend of mine, unclear goals. If you have unclear goals, again, there's that vision thing again, the vision word, right? Makes it very hard to stay consistent. A few more, lack of belief and desire, too many shiny objects, you get knocked down, you have to get back up. That takes persistence, right? Yes, 100% agree with all that. I agree with all these. This is my favorite one from my former coaching client, Constanza. I wish I knew, Bob, maybe some because of self-sabotage. I do believe there's a lot of people do self-sabotage when it comes to their business as well. So we got a lot. There's a lot to unpack here, right? So what do we do with it? What do we do? Do you find yourself nodding in agreement with any of these? Some of these? All of these? Right? Bet you probably did. You're probably nodding, as I went through some of these, you're probably nodding your head saying that's me. There's a lot of things, right? As I said, to unpack. We're not going to leave you here. Where do we go, right? I'm going to take you now and I'm going to help you to get through this jungle. Now, big thing here, right? You might see yourself in several of the things I talked about. Choose the biggest one and get started. Don't try to solve all of them at once because it'll blow your mind, right? If you can figure out your maybe biggest obstacle to being consistent for you, and let's work on that, you'll be light years ahead of everybody else. So I want to finish this up now with 7 tips to 100x your productivity. So let's talk about clear goals and direction. You got to know why you're doing what you're doing. Right? You got to know. It's called vision. And if you don't have a clear vision or clear goals to get to where you want to go, it's going to be very hard for you to be consistent. So if you don't really have a good vision right now, and if you don't really have goals, I suggest you start there. Now, what kind of goals? You can have short-term goals, maybe a daily goal, a weekly goal, a monthly goal, or longer-term goals, a quarterly goal, a 6-month goal, a yearly goal, a 5-year goal, right? You don't have to have all of them, but you can have as many as you want. And personally, I like to have a mixture of short-term and long-term. I have a 5-year goal. I have a daily goal every day, right? So I think a mixture is good. And when it comes to these goals, it's important to break them down into smaller, manageable tasks. Right? I talk a lot about your most impactful activity. And I do that for a reason, because it breaks it down into the most simplest form of your overall goal for that day, right? What is your one thing, your most impactful activity, right? And get that done. That's a way to really break down your goals into smaller, manageable tasks. So again, I suggest if you're not strong on vision and goals, I suggest you start there. Routine and habits. This is my big thing. Routines lead to habits. You got to get yourself into routines. And I think if you have a business, whether you're part-time or full-time, the biggest thing you can do to get a routine going that can lead to a habit is setting a business time, setting a regular business time for the day. And it doesn't have to be the same every day, although it's easier if it is, right? But I think setting a time for your business and making it very serious, this is my time, and prioritizing that. My family knows when I have my business time, they don't disturb me unless the house is on fire or something, or somebody's sick, because that is that important. So you set your business time, you prioritize it, you prioritize your most impactful activities. And if you do that day after day, you start developing a routine. And if you do a routine long enough, it becomes a habit. And when your habits are very positive and lead into getting work done, getting activities done, getting things done for your business, you're going to be more consistent. So I think routines and habits are really important. What about focus and distractions? Got to focus on one activity. I know it's easy to multitask. Some people are better at it than others. I can barely walk and chew gum at the same time at this stage of my life. But focus on one activity, guys, especially with your business. If you focus on one and put all your attention on that, you're going to get way more done. I'm not a strong advocate of multitasking. I know there's some points where you can do it, but I'm not a big advocate of it. And as we talked about the last time I did a lecture here, plan for your distractions. Plan ahead of time, knowing what distracts you, and try to minimize those ahead of time so you don't get distracted, right? If you can nip distractions in the bud, it's way easier than having a full-blown distraction event and trying to deal with it. So plan to reduce your distractions. What about energy? We don't really talk about energy much, right? But maybe instead of managing your time, you want to look at managing your energy physically, your physical energy, right? Self-care, getting enough sleep, diet, activity, but also your mental energy, right? For me, I can sit at this computer for about 30 minutes before I got to get up and move around and take a walk. I can't do 60, 90-minute, 2 hours like some people can do. I personally just cannot do it. So you got to know yourself, right? But take breaks, get that mental energy, recharge it, listen to some great music, getting that mental energy up. It's important. You got to manage it. And again, trying to maintain some semblance of work-life balance is important. It's not always easy, a lot of stuff going on in our lives, but you got to try to balance it out as best you can to maintain and manage that energy. It's all part of being consistent and being productive. Reduce overwhelm. Part of that overwhelm can be reduced by having a strong belief in what you're doing. So you're not pulled off course at every shiny object that comes your way. And there's lots of them. There's no shortage of shiny objects in our space. A strong belief will help counteract that pull. And also recognizing shiny objects for what they are. When you've been around for a while and you start seeing the trends, the shiny objects raise their hands and you can see them. And yet, as marketers, as business owners, you have to make the decision. Is this something I could use in my business? Or is this just a shiny object that I'm using to pull me away from something that I'm not happy with? It's not working that well, right? That's usually why people go for shiny objects, in my opinion, is because whatever they're doing isn't working to their satisfaction. And it's like grass is greener on the other side of the fence kind of deal. Most times they find it's not greener. Sometimes it works out, but most times it doesn't. If you're going to reduce overwhelm, you got to reduce the number of voices in your head. I'm not talking about schizophrenia. I'm talking about the number of people outside voices that you allow inside your head, right? Trainers, coaches, mentors, advertisers, news things, all everything, right? Everything. You've got to manage the input that comes in. Most of the overwhelm I feel when I feel it comes from too much input. And I've got to cut it out. I've got to get back to one voice, one trainer I listen to in each area of marketing, right? So I don't have 3 or 4 different people coming at me with different ideas in the same topic and it gets, what do I do, right? Got to limit it as much as you can. That will really reduce your overwhelm. What about reacting to life, right? Life throws you curveballs for everybody. Happens to me on a daily basis. right? I have great intentions. Life throws a curveball. My attention gets pulled away. How do you deal with that? You can either be adaptable and pivot and move on, or it can paralyze you. For example, if I have 10 to 12 set up for my business, taking breaks after every 30 minutes, right? If I've got that 2 hour window for my business in the morning and I wake up and everything's going great, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from my grandson's school saying, "Can you pick him up? He's sick." Okay, and I go down. Of course, he takes priority. I get down, pick him up. He's got to go to the doctor. Take him over to the doctor. All of a sudden, my 10 a.m. is gone. Right? It's now 1 o'clock. I got him home. I got him fed. He's in bed. He's feeling better. Okay, now I got to pivot. Okay, maybe now I move my business time to 2 to 4. So reacting to life is huge. Right? We all get curveballs. We've got to adapt to it, and we've got to pivot. And it's way too easy. Okay, it's way too easy to have something happen during your day and then just blow off your business and say, "I'll do it tomorrow." Ah, life is crazy today. I can't get it done. It's very important that you do your best to fit in your business later in the day if something happens earlier, and vice versa, right? You got to fit it in. If you blow it off, then it becomes too easy to blow it off, and it happens over and over again, and then you've got a problem. So reacting to life is huge. Mindset and resilience. Right? You got to have a growth mindset. And coming from someone who's a lifelong employee, a growth mindset was new to me. I didn't have a growth mindset. And it took me, I had to play catch up at the age of 52 when I first started my business, right? So you got to work on that. And it's a daily thing for me. You got to work on your growth mindset. And it's important that you see challenges and setbacks as learning experiences and not as something bad. And one of the hardest things for me coming out of an employee mindset was my thinking about mistakes. As an employee in my job in healthcare, mistakes were the worst thing that could happen, right? Especially in my field, right? Mistakes affected patients, mistakes affected lives. So mistakes were to be avoided at all costs, and mistakes could get you fired if they were bad enough. In business, you got to be making mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. And to make mistakes means that you're taking action. So it's actually a good thing to make mistakes. Not that you're trying to make mistakes, but mistakes are evidence that you're taking action, right? Because many people just sit on the sidelines and never do anything. So that whole dichotomy between mistakes in the job versus mistakes in business, that took me a while to embrace that. So it's important to see challenges, setbacks, mistakes as learning experiences. And I found that you have to celebrate even the small wins. When I do any kind of a coaching call or a mastermind with people, the first thing we do whenever we meet is that we talk about our wins for the week or wins for the day. We talk about the small or big wins that happened since the last time we talked. And I think that's super important because it's easy to have something good happen and move on and say, "What's next? What's next? What's next?" Instead of stopping and saying, "Hey, I did that. That's a good job. Yes, I'm making progress here." So you got to celebrate those small wins. So, like I said, consistency, productivity, momentum, results, right? They're all tied together. And you got these lists of things that can contribute to a lack of consistency and productivity. Again, pick a couple. So let's say, for example, um, I think Carla said goals and vision were her two things. What if Carla spent the next 30 days really honing in on her goals and her vision? Do you think that her productivity and consistency would increase? I think it would. And if that increases, momentum is going to build, results will follow. So that's why I say don't try and go down the list and deal with all these. Figure out which ones are the most important. And for Carla, I'm going to say maybe goals and vision are the most important for you, right? Let's work on those in the next 30 days and let's see what happens. And then if you've got that nailed down, then you pick your next one and you work on that. Okay, your next one or two. So don't try to bite off more than you could chew. So here's some action steps for you. Sit down and really analyze your lack of productivity, your lack of consistency. Go through the list that we talked about and see which ones are the big ones for you. And choose the top one or two factors that you want to work on, that you want to improve. And let's start that. Let's start that practice. And what I want you to do is after 30 days, check back and see, have you improved? Has your productivity improved? Has your consistency improved? Are you starting to see some momentum and maybe even some results? It might take longer than 30 days to see results, but you should start seeing improvements in consistency, productivity, and probably momentum.